Awesome. So for those of you just want to make sure, well, first of all, I always like to do a test. Could you just type one in the chat to see to confirm that you're hearing me clearly? I would appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Awesome. All right, so just to reintroduce myself, just for the recording purpose, my name is Kerry-Ann Joseph-McLean. My husband Conan and I have been developed a passion. So we are consider ourselves health enthusiasts. We're making a disclaimer here, we are not health practitioners. But what we want to do is to be proactive with our health. And those of you that we come in connection with, like yourself, we want to always add value to every person that we connect with, whether it's through a simple conversation, sharing information like this. And we've been on this health journey for more than 14, almost 15 years. And as I share this with you, these are things that we've learned along the way, and we have mentors and coaches. But for myself, I like research. I like going to credible sites like PubMed.gov, which is a public medical library. I go to the Mayo Clinic. Sometimes I go to Harvard or Yale to get studies that shows that certain things that I'm speaking on are backed by science or by studies that I've done through type of trials. And of course, we're looking at information that's actually credible. I know each of us can go to Google, especially with AI, and we can get a whole plethora of information that takes you to a rabbit hole of things. But I want to say to you that as I continue to share this with you, also do your due diligence. You know, we have naturopathic doctors in here in Canada, North America, and elsewhere. And of course, you can speak to your health practitioner. Most study pharmaceuticals. So I would suggest maybe speaking to a nutritionist or even you're speaking to a naturopathic doctor in conjunction with your health practitioner if you have a family doctor. Hopefully that you do. So I'm going to share with you on this topic. This is concerning human papilloma virus, and abbreviated as HPV. And I'm going to share this screen with you. Just give me 1 second. Help me. And once I share, there's something wrong here. I'm going to ask you if you can see my screen. I did something here. Sorry, my bad. Okay, I think I'm accidentally hit something. Make sure that I can see the screen. There we go. Now I can share the screen. Awesome. Just have a little bit of technical glitch right there. All right, so if you can see my screen, please type a 2 in the chat just to make sure. Awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome. So as I speak on this, again, if you have questions, place them in the comments of the chat, or at the end, we take you off of, we take yourself off of mute, and we can try to address the questions as best as we can. So what is HPV? We've heard about this. There's some myths, some misconceptions. We have some information, but in most circumstances, when we don't have a health scare in a particular area of health, we don't go into the in depth as to what that entails. So for the past 9 months, actually going into 10 months, I've held this health talk every single week, consistently covering different topics of health, giving tips, giving some pointing into direction of for health and wellness. And overall, it's basically being mindful, practicing health and wellness through mindfulness and self-awareness, and also sort of pushing the envelope as to what this health mean. It's not masking the symptoms, but finding out the cause by you being your detective on health, meaning that you're going to dig deeper as you converse with your doctor and make sure you have the information that you can challenge the conversation, have a challenging conversation with the person that you're sharing your most intimate health symptoms or conditions with, so that both of you are on the same page. So HPV And I'll be using the acronym because human papilloma virus takes a little bit more time just to say. But HPV has been linked to a few other things. I'm going to cover a few things today, or we can be here all night. But I want to share with you a couple of things that may pique your interest, or you may have me confirmation of what you know from before, base or things that are new to you. So almost all cases of cervical cancer are caused by HPV. We've heard many things in the way of cervical cancer, but I'm going to share a couple of things with you here, as I mentioned before. So there are actually over 150 types of HPV, of which 13 of these are linked to or lead to cancer, especially cervical cancer. So HPV infection is a viral infection that commonly causes skin or mucous membrane growth, for example, warts. So it appears on the exterior, but we know other things are happening internally. Some types of the HPV infection causes warts, and some can cause different types of cancer. So this is in extreme cases. So most HPV infections don't lead to cancer, but some types of genital HPV can cause the cancer of the low part of the uterus and connects to the vagina of the cervix. So other types of cancer includes cancer of the anus, penis, so men too can actually get HPV, vagina, vulva, back of the throat, and have been linked to HPV infection. So these infections are often transmitted sexually or through other skin-to-skin contact. Vaccines can help protect against the strains of HPV most likely to cause genital warts or cervical cancer. In schools, they're actually there's a program for that, so both women, boys and girls, or men and women can get it. Most time, if you're from the Caribbean or from you're immigrant coming into the country, you've been here for some years, a couple of decades, you may have had that vaccine, but you may be tested for those things now that you're going to your doctor. I actually had my exam done last week. It's no longer called a pap smear, it's called an HPV test. So for you, as we get older, or go through seasons of life, it's very important to check your health and maintain your health and not be shy about it. In the sense, you have to be your own advocate, because there's a friend of ours that basically says that we are the doctors of the future. Because if we can't articulate what's going on with our body more, more in depth as to what you're feeling, it's going to be a challenge for your doctor to sort of give you an educated guess, so to speak, because of what their area of expertise is, or refer you to the right specialist. So being mindful and being aware, paying attention to your body is very important. So the 7 types of symptoms of HPV, mostly focusing HPV, not STI, things like we mentioned, genital warts, unusual growth, persistent itching or irritation, unexplained vaginal discharge is one of those things, pelvic or groin pain, vaginal bleeding or spotting, or painful urination or intercourse. Now, I want to highlight that part because painful urination or intercourse can be other things. For example, prostate cancer can actually have, you may have experience of painful urination. Women, it could be a yeast infection, not necessarily HPV and other things. And an intercourse as painful could be that your season of change of your body, your hormones, you may be going through perimenopause or menopause. So pay attention to that. So if 1 or 2 or 3 symptoms are showing, it's simply not just change of life or something else. So genital warts, they appear as like lesions, small cauliflower-like bumps. In women, it appears mostly on the vulva, but of course, it can be in other areas as well. In men, it appears on their private part, the penis or scrotum, or around the anus. So genital warts really cause discomfort or pain, most likely itchy or feeling tender. Common warts usually happen where, excuse me, they appear as rough. Raised bumps usually occur on the hands, the fingers, in extreme cases, the entire hand or all of your fingers, causing distortion. And they could be unsightly. Most of all, it impacts your confidence and your appearance because we all want to be mindful of that, but it goes deeper than that. And they can also be painful. And you can be susceptible to injury or bleeding, especially as you're using your hands more than the rest of your body in doing your day-to-day activity. Plantar warts are hard, grainy growth. Flat ones are like the flat top, slightly raised lesions. So if there's someone in your family, someone in your circle, you may notice something, not to embarrass them, but sort of call them on the side. So notice this about your skin condition. Maybe they may be ignoring it. And just maybe gently with love, suggest they see a doctor, because sometimes people aren't as mindful because they're so focused on their day-to-day life in the business of life. So women tend to get the flat warts on their other parts of their body. So for example, on their legs versus their hands only. Some could be on the heels or on the balls of the feet. So there's different types. So depending on the type of strain that you've been diagnosed with, or you have pre-diagnosis, it all depends on the types of warts you have. Now, 80% of people, both women and men, will get infected by HPV at some point in their life. That's a very high number. But there's some myths around that, and I actually will say that I will admit that I had one misconception until I was actually properly educated on this information about HPV. Then one of the myth is it's rare. It's not. Only promiscuous people get HPV. That's false. The infection always shows symptoms, not necessarily, and that's a myth. It only affects women. That's where my misconception was. In that case, I thought only girls get this because of cervical. They're having a cervix versus men. One of the other myths is condoms fully protect against HPV. Not necessarily, because of course things can happen. Your protective gear can actually your condoms can actually burst or break or can be faulty, and things can happen. But also other things as well, other factors as well, because your skin to skin contact. HPV vaccine is only for girls. Again, that was my misconception. That's false. HPV vaccine is unsafe. No, this is a whole different conversation. So speak to your doctor, especially with boys and girls going to school who are preteen. Do your due diligence, see what the side effects are, because all vaccines have benefits and of course some negative aspects to it. So do your due diligence, speak to your doctor, your naturopath doctor, to see what the best solution is to protect the people in your life who could be susceptible to HPV. If you have it, you will get cancer. Again, not necessarily true. Sometimes you have HPV, it is controlled, and it won't lead to cancer. You can get HPV if you're in a monogamous relationship, and that's actually false. Smoking has no effect on the development of the HPV virus. I actually wanted to highlight this because it was surprising to me. I'm not a smoker, but it's something I learned. It's actually a major risk factor for developing cervical cancer. So, imagine you're high risk for HPV and you're smoking. So you're doubling the risk of getting cervical cancer. So if you smoke and your immune system around the cells of the cervix could be weakened, you're higher risk. So it makes it harder for the body to prevent and clear, higher risk infection. So you're basically more prone to either reoccurrence or getting the HPV itself or other types of infectious, infections in that area. So this can cause abnormal cells to develop, causing a rabbit hole of illness, which you want to prevent. So one of the things I want to suggest, I have a picture of pap smear, but now it's called HPV screening. But making sure, in my case, the stage of life I'm in, it's every 5 years. Younger could be every 2 years. Teens, young adults, and 20s and 30s could be every 2-3 years. Depending on the country you're in, there may be certain guidelines with the government to determine how often you get, a test done for HPV. So I mentioned to you about the HPV, but I'm going to divert the conversation now to cervical cancer because they are connected or could be connected. So the risk factor for cervical cancer, multiple sexual partners, weak immunity, could be early marriage. There's a whole conversation there. Contraceptive pills, long-term use, high numbers of pregnancy, smoking, as I mentioned before, poor genital hygiene. So as women, we tend, of course, we have a monthly visits from I call it, we call that your auntie. But your poor genital hygiene can happen, especially as you get older and people using uh, sort of like things to help you, especially if you have a weak bladder. Of course, your cervix and your pelvic airflow has actually gotten weaker, so you may have to use more of your sanitary pads or other things as well to help you to keep yourself I guess okay, that's the best word I can use as you going about your day activities, but making sure that you be mindful of that. Of course, STD is a high risk as well for getting cervical cancer. So I'm not speaking about STD today, but just highlighting some areas that cervical cancer can be a risk factor. So nearly all cervical cancer, as I mentioned before, are caused by HPV. So it takes about 20 years or longer to develop. So you may have an infection today, and then 10, 15, 20 years or so, you actually develop cervical cancer. So there's a connection, there's a history there. So the early detection of cervical cancer um, can help you, especially when you go in your screening. But there's noticeably no symptoms. And as we go through all of the information I'm sharing with you, as you see on the lower part, you see some links. Those are the studies I found, some of the sources I've actually gotten information from. But screening is super important, especially for women, men too. But also, as I mentioned before, it's not only a man's illness or disease. So making sure that as your body changes, especially when it changes in the cervix, you do these screenings to prevent or detect any precancerous changes in the lining of your cervix. I have it for the United States, but this is for North America. African Americans or women of color face twice the cervical cancer mortality rates of their counterpart of women. So, basically you're looking at a higher risk. There's actually a whole study in that as well. Low part is a little bit small in font, but if you need to get that link, I can share it with you. It's a study that was done. So 12% versus other ethnicity of 5%. So it's a high risk of infection for HPV. HPV pre-cancer, African American, women of color, 7% versus other races, ethnicities of 2%. So that's a big difference there. So symptoms, as I mentioned before, from no symptoms to some itching to some lumps or bumps. If this keeps reoccurring, that actually is more telling, not just a one-time occurrence, because some other things are happening with your body. So the causes and risk and prevention, just being mindful. So the current guidelines right now recommended for women of 29 to 29 to do this type of test, not PAPS test, but HPVs every 3 years here in North America. Could be more frequent in other countries, but just sharing with you from the information that I have from North America itself. Women between 30 and 65 are advised to continue having this test every 3 years or every 5 years. If you also have the HPV DNA test at the same time, that's something you can request from your doctor to have that done in addition to your HPV screening test. So women over 65 can stop testing if they have 3 normal tests in a row or 2 HPV DNA or types of testing. Now, some individuals who've had a full hysterectomy no longer have their ovaries or their womb have been removed because of having a full hysterectomy. That's something that's not required according to some of the doctors who I've spoken to as well, including family members of mine who've had full hysterectomy. So the high risk of HPV, as we mentioned before, can develop over time with cervical cancer, but there's no way to know who will develop cancer or other health problems from HPV. It's a case-by-case situation, but also just to be mindful. Another thing is to keep in mind, people with a weak immune system or they have a compromised immune system like autoimmune conditions, they have a higher risk of getting the HPV or be less able to fight HPV because of their compromise with their HPV. So you will be mindful of that as well, because these are things you can have. You can have these conversations with your doctor to address your concerns, because they may be looking at one thing, like your main condition, for example, your autoimmune issue, if you have such a condition. But again, ask these questions so that you can eliminate these things from your mind, from your concern, for your well-being. The types of 6 types of cancer, as I mentioned before, is cervical, vaginal, penile, anal, vulva, oropharyngeal, geez, oropharyngeal cancer. I have to say that very slow. So the cervical cancer is one of the most prevalent and is widespread, more than we actually know. So in estimate every year, over 500,000 new cases are estimated each year. And in most cases, it's mostly commonly sexually transmitted infection. So we know there's other conditions of STDs, but in this case, we're not speaking about STDs, we're speaking of just specifically HPV. So the HPV itself, some of the other signs would be, for example, you'd be amazed at other areas that you may not be able to connect the dots. So if you have a non-healing ulcer or lump in the mouth, it could be difficulty swallowing, sensation of lumps in the throat, chronic foreign voice or voice change, ear pain, or unilateral earache. Okay, you think, okay, I have a ear infection. No, it could be other things, a neck or jaw swelling. So instead of just focusing on one thing, and I'm not trying to be an alarmist. So if, for example, you notice 1, 2, or 3 different conditions, sort of connecting the dot, seek, for medical assistance or advice. If you have an occasional earache or neck swelling, could be other things as well, especially if you have a thyroid condition. So be mindful of that so that you're not incurring undue stress and anxiety because you have one symptom and you're thinking it's something else. So just be mindful of that. Another thing as well for symptoms and diagnosis for where it's moved from your HPV to a type of cancer, which is an oral cancer or of the throat. One other area could be like persistent, uh, unexplained weight loss. That's one thing, swollen lymph nodes in the neck. So, paying attention to how your neck is feeling, do that external testing for yourself ever so often. Like how, especially for women, you check your breast exam once a month for yourself. Check your throat, see what's happening with you. Um, One of the things I want to mention to you as well, HPV can causes 70% of tonsils and base of tongue cancer. That's very high. So checking we mentioned before, your lymph nodes, to see if lumps in your around your area of your throat, your neck, you be mindful of that as well. So in your mouth, they have sores that are reoccurring. Some people get canker sores, especially when the weather's changing. You're highly stressed. These things can happen where you get these sores. This different than HPV. So your mouth sores from HPV or another cause is just paying attention from mild irritation to infections that can lead to underlying health conditions. So for example, common causes of mouth sores, you may have a reoccurring because of the winter change in the weather, the winter, your immune system, all of that can happen as a combination of sort of like symptoms to cause this. But other types of things like cold sores could be HSV, so herpes simplex virus, or traumatic ulcers. Those are things that happen, but in other cases where you've been diagnosed or you haven't been diagnosed as yet, the HPV is slightly different. So small warts can happen or flat patches for the mouth area. So that's different from canker or cold sores. So this tends to be painful versus slight discomfort. That's for the canker sores, sorry, or cold sores. But the HPV mouth sores are usually painless. That's the major distinction between the two. HPV and oral cancer, what you should know mostly about is that these lesions they don't actually develop into oral cancer, but certain high-risk strains increase the risk of future cancers of the oral cavity. Again, if you go to a dentist, your doctor, so that you do your annual or twice a year just to check with your dental for your mouth health, your gum health, as well as for your doctor to speak about things that may be reoccurring, or if it's for the first time, to make sure that you rule these things out. So the base of the tongue, tonsils, as I mentioned before, the rear of the mouth, these are indicators as well. So how do they appear? as I mentioned before, around the mouth area. But the tonsil, the base of the tongue, as I mentioned, so deep under the mouth, the throat, lesions, the tonsils themselves, it can actually have growth or discoloration of the tonsils. This is something your doctor can check because as you go for your annual physical, or if you're seeing a doctor for a particular health check, ask them if they can check your tonsils just to make sure to rule out certain things if you have some sort of symptoms. The roof of the mouth, which is soft palate, lesions can form there. That's a softer part of the roof of your mouth. And so that's something that you don't really pay attention to mostly unless you're feeling like an outbreak. And of course, we tend to check more on the other areas of the mouth than the inner part of the roof of the mouth. Inside lining of the cheek, the lips, some cases they can have discoloration as well. There's also a link, or there could be a link between HPV and fertility. This actually does not cause sterility, but it is a secondary effect. So the reason being that there's something called cervical dysplasia. So it's a chronic inflammation and alterations in sperm health that can cause fertility outcome. In women, persistent HPV infection can lead to cervical dysplasia. Fertility concerns can arise, particularly if normal cell growth requires surgical intervention. For men, HPV and male fertility are interconnected through potential effects on the sperm quality and motility. So the study suggests that this HPV-infected sperms may have reduced viability, making fertilization more challenging. So it's something to be mindful of as well. Women actually have 4 times higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease if they have an infection with a higher risk of strains of this HPV as men as well, but women have a higher risk. So again, we want to advise on screening to save lives. Sometimes we want to be, not all times we want to be proactive, but there are times when the mind says, "Well, I don't want to know. I'm feeling these symptoms, but I don't want to know because I'm scared to get the results." Well, that's actually moving about in blissful ignorance. And so you need to be the champion for yourself, for your health, be an advocate for your health, and just to rule it out to make sure that there's nothing that's wrong with you, or that the things you sort of be able to identify at an early stage what's going on with your body so that you can actually have longevity. And this is something I would always suggest. Not again to be an alarmist, but to make sure you take care of self. Taking care of your health is most important. So when infected with HPV, you know how to take care of yourself. Well, there's a few things I can suggest. And again, these are just recommendations. And it's something that I am myself and Cornell, we are very proactive with in being advocates for, or being enthusiastic about. So taking care of your physical health, of course, is a given, but at times we go through our lives and we sort of we put it on the back burner. So here's a few things I'm showing here on the left. I won't go through in details. You can actually take a screen capture if you wish to, but paying attention to your overall health, one of the things that we tend to forget about is our oral health. We tend to put that off sometimes, especially if we have maybe don't have the ability or the means to do that, but at least once a year, check your gum health, find a dentist if you don't have one, search in your area. But increase susceptibility to gum disease. This virus supposedly causes this disruption. So gum inflammation can actually impact your health, but also your higher risk for HPV. If you have HPV, you have more inflammation in your body, including gum inflammation. Delaying healing of oral wounds. This arises when you have HPV infections. You have more flare-ups. You have uncontrolled cuts, mouth sores, dental rehabilitation. All these things play, a pivotal role in your overall health, especially your oral health. You can be vulnerable to infections, compromising your oral tissues, also more at risk for the bad bacteria, a bacterial or fungal infection to be you be more exposed to that, especially if you're not mindful of your oral health. So what can you do in the way of, helping your body to get what it needs to protect itself? Well, we know from studies there's no direct fix for the virus. because as we mentioned before, it can reoccur. But there's certain things you can do to sort of be proactive in your overall wellness to help you with your certain things like your immune system. As we mentioned, the immune system is actually pivotal to your health, especially with HPV. So things you can consider are additional dietary supplements, eating certain types of food or fruits and vegetables that are high in certain types of nutrients, minerals, vitamins, that can boost or support your immune system to help to fight off HPV or the reoccurrence of that. Another thing as well is some things like not smoking if you don't have to. I know sometimes you're a smoker. You tend, especially when you're stressed, you smoke more. So try to reduce the amount of times that you're smoking or to quit smoking if you can. It is a journey, but again, it's something for your health. Smoking is detrimental to the immune system, so it makes it harder for the body to fight HPV if you've been diagnosed. Eating a healthy diet rich in fruit and vegetables, and maybe speak to a dietitian to cater something tailor-made for you to be able to have the right nutrients, or you can actually do something, for example, like an elimination diet. So you can actually figure out what works with your body likes, how it thrives, versus what it doesn't like, to be able to determine what you can consume to support your body and pay attention to how your body is actually responding. Exercising regularly actually helps to maintain a healthy weight, because again, you can have a fluctuation of your weight when you have HPV. Of course, the immune system is impacted if your weight is not in alignment with your health. Drinking alcohol in moderation versus excess, making sure you get enough sleep. I can say that's been my challenge for the last little while, but I'm getting better at it. I've actually doing a practice of doing at least 21 days of 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'm very proud of myself for that. So these are things that we have to work on continually every day to remind ourselves to stay healthy and trying to minimize stress. That's very important, especially going through the seasons of life. So diets that can actually will play a very pivotal role in strengthening the immune system. Not only diet, but the other factors as well. But this can help to fight viral infections like genital warts. You'd be amazed how it's connected, right? So some foods can boost the immune system. Consuming others may weaken the immune system and also slow down the healing process of these types of warts that your body you may have as flare-ups, especially if you're having more than one occurrence of HPV symptoms on the skin. So foods high in sugar, unhealthy fats, fast foods, highly processed food, overconsumption of alcoholic beverages can lead to the inflamed body. So if the body is inflamed, it's out of homeostasis stage, meaning that you're reducing the healing ability to fight the viruses. The body is meant to heal itself, but if it's not getting the right things, it cannot do that. So you're fighting a losing battle, so to speak. So one of the other things as well is sugar, hidden sugars, added sugars. So there's certain things you can be mindful of. Just check your labels when you're buying your seasonings, your foods that are not basically from the earth to your table. But making sure you're mindful of what you're consuming, especially with hidden fats, hidden sugars, and so forth. Tips for an effective diet would be the diversity of your types of food. So healthy food groups to meet the body's nutritional needs, enough proteins, making sure you have the right serving, fruits and vegetables. If you have other underlying conditions that you have, a negative impact on your body when you eat certain foods, be mindful of that as well. I have a friend who cannot have some types of vegetables because it works against her with her issue with autoimmune. So weight gain, overeating, controlling your size of food on your plate, be mindful of that again. We suggest speaking to a dietitian, your doctor. If you don't have one, try to get a family doctor or even through a walk-in clinic. And as you've had your regular, appointment, ask them they can refer you to a dietitian to help you at least to know what to do, how to start that journey if you haven't done so as yet. Regular meal consumption, not skipping meals, eating, having the right energy level, strengthening immune system is everyday activity, all these habits you're creating, because all of us, including myself, have developed bad habits along our lifespan of eating healthy not healthy, breaking that, starting the process of being healthy. So I would say to you, forgive yourself, brush off your shoulders and start again, to be mindful of what you're consuming so that you can have a healthier you. So food combinations, for example, like vitamin C with iron, oranges, lentils, certain things you can have. That, of course, that will absorb, help to your absorption of your nutrients, and also paying attention to that as well. So in addition to that, there's something called superfoods. We've heard them. It's a generic word that's been used all over social media, and also as we're having conversation. But I have fallen in love with superfoods. There's certain types of superfoods I love. I love blueberries. You may not. Chia seeds, spirulina, quinoa, pomegranates. I can tell you for this one, the older folks, they know. They may not know all the facts, but they know what it does for the body. My grandmother actually had a pomegranate tree in her front yard, and she said, "Don't touch it. It's no. And if you touch it, no, because the one or two will grow on the tree." And then when she picked it, when it's almost ripe or close to ripe, she would share it with us as her grandchildren. And I honestly, why it has so many seeds? But oh my gosh, it's so good, full of antioxidants. Other things that you can consume, ginger, turmeric, but of course, pay attention to what you're consuming in the way of superfoods. Some people have certain medications, like if you have a beta block for your heart, certain things like turmeric you can't have. So pay attention, speak to your doctor, but not your pharmaceutical doctor. Sorry, not your I keep saying that, but not your regular family doctor because they don't study natural medicine. Speak to a pharmacist or a nutritionist along with your doctor so that they can advise you what you can take and what has a negative impact if you're taking medication on a whole. So I actually fallen in love with another superfood last 14 years, myself and my household. In addition to, I love spirulina, even though it has a different taste. We use things like aloe vera and I love goji berries as well. But superfood for me is number one go-to is Ganoderma lucidum. So at the bottom left, there's this nice, beautiful type of mushroom. And I learned about this 14 years ago, actually, after the passing of one of my aunts. And I found out about all these health benefits about it. And because it's more known in the eastern part of the world, western part of the world is sort of catching up. And there's over 3,000 case studies alone just on this reishi mushroom, or we call it Ganoderma lucidum. The other two you see on to the left and the right of this, I call it superstar, is lion's mane and cordyceps. I know there's some conversations you're seeing sometimes showing up on your algorithm of your social media. You're seeing type of mushrooms becoming a new rave here in North America, but this has have been practiced with traditional Chinese or Eastern medicine, but also something is recommended to consume on its own or to complement pharmaceuticals as well. And I'll share with you why that is the case. So we talk about different type of nutrients. So we know we need, a lot of antioxidants in our body. We need a lot of probiotics or prebiotics, fatty acids, the healthy kind, to help to balance the body. So if we don't have the right nutrients, minerals, vitamins, our body gets depleted and then it does not perform at its optimal best. So this reishi, and I'm going to call it reishi, but it's also called Ganoderma lucidum, but it's easier for me to say reishi, has power pack of antioxidants. So just in comparison, if you eat avocados, you'll get about 7 dose of the antioxidants if you have the avocados versus from a single dose of the Ganoderma or reishi, 150. So you're looking at, more than, excuse me, sorry about that, more than 15 to 1 in the way of comparison I'm doing my math right, for the antioxidants. I love chocolate, so you may get about 14 of that from the right kind of chocolate, dark chocolate, versus 150 of the antioxidants for the Ganoderma. I love strawberries, you may not. So you can see the comparison, what I'm trying to explain. And this is just the reishi alone. So the medicinal mushroom, they have a higher nutritional property versus, having you consume food. Most times we eat food that we get from the grocery store. They're heavily depleted in the nutrients we need because of the soil that it's being grown from. And so our body doesn't get enough. So you're eating food for consumption in the way of getting energy, but you may not be getting all the right nutrients. So because it's so high on the hierarchy of all types of superfoods, because it's considered medicinal as well as a food supplement, it's very low in calories and fat, but very high and rich in nutrients and bioactive compounds. So things like protein, fibers, vitamins, actually is used for treatment of many ailments or conditions. So we know all foods or most foods have antioxidants, terpenoids, flavonoids. They all have their benefits. So from anything for your gut, getting rid of free radicals from your body, giving your body the antioxidants it needs, helps to fight against antibacterial, things like inflammation, for cancer fighting activities. Some of the foods we eat, or all the foods we eat, they have all these benefits. Flavonoids, for example, protects your protective properties, helps with the heart, inflammation, and so forth. But what if your body's not getting all that it needs? So this is where the superfood comes in as well. And so this is what I'm sharing with you, the Ganoderma. So Ganoderma, I'm showing to you, these are all studies that were done through PubMed.gov. So the findings you're seeing here, the ID number, you can simply go into PubMed, you can type that in. There's a whole bunch of information, which I don't want to overwhelm you with too much. You can go in at your leisure and you can get more information on that study alone. So it helps with, in many things, the Ganoderma lucidum or the reishi is anti-inflammation, has that property. It helps to relax and calm the body. It actually has very high in flavonoids and polysaccharides. This is where the antioxidants come in. And so the anti-inflammatory properties that you may get from a regular food is a high concentration. So we know inflammation is the root of most diseases. So if your body's actually getting rid of the inflammation by consuming what it needs, your body actually is getting on the path of a healthier you. The more things as well that I want to share with you, I found a couple of studies actually, but I placed one. So there's something called Coriolis versicolor. It's what's used as a topical for anyone who has HPV, but it's also used in combination with the Ganoderma lucidum. So it actually leads to improving the HPV clearance for in HPV cervical or oral positive patients, so like warts and things like that. So consuming it, having that into your body to help it to alleviate all of these things, to be able to reduce the amount of flare-up times or to actually calm it down. There's a lot of benefits to this because there's no known side effects with this. Over 3,000 case studies of different health conditions, and even with medication, there's no negative interaction with that thus far. So it also helps with, if you've taken a vaccine, it actually can increase the effectiveness of the vaccine for HPV. And so it's considered a suitable adjunction to the treatment of many cancers as well, including those who've had, HPV virus. I've been diagnosed with HPV virus. I mentioned about free radicals. The Ganoderma itself, or reishi, improves autoimmune function. It also it has it's antioxidative. So for me, learning about this as well is very important to us. There's something in your body called oxidative stress, which leads you to your body being exposed to free radicals, which leads you to your body being more prone to dis-ease. So if your body has sufficient antioxidants, it gets rid of the free radicals, also helps reduce or eliminate the oxidative stress. Oxidative stress can be identified in many illnesses that your body has may be experiencing. But I say to you, if you're consuming a supplement, this actually be a good complement to it. If you're not, this could actually be something that you can use in addition to what you're normally eating as a way of consumption. So the inflammation, which flares up, can have a negative effect. We know that the PubMed studies, it is anti-cancer as well. So several types of tumors, including breast cancer and so forth. But also it suppresses the mechanism of anti-cancer. So it mimics that. So if you're taking a medication or chemo radiation, it can actually be taken in conjunction with that to protect your organs. But if you find you want to go the natural path, of course, speak with your naturopathic doctor to see what you can consume. But Ganoderma is one of the main leading superfood that helps to alleviate or to be able to protect you when you're going through these type of let's say health concerns, the health scares. The Ganoderma itself is called the GLP, Ganoderma lucidum polysaccharides, because in the breakup of the Ganoderma, there's polysaccharides, just like other foods. It alleviates the activity and aggressiveness that blocks the cell cycle. So it promotes the apoptosis of cervical cancer cells. So if you use it as a natural source with anti-cancer activity against cervical cancer, for example, this is a win-win. Ganoderma is a valuable medicinal mushroom, but also, as I mentioned, a food supplement. So it's been widely used in prevention of various types of diseases and treatments as well. The Ganoderma acts as a possible substitute to combat cancer growth with advanced conventional combination like therapies or as natural alternatives that I mentioned before. So it promotes many things, but also, as I mentioned before, the autoimmune, it actually has a lot of findings that helps not only with inflammation, the anti-inflammatory properties, but also protects different organs, including the heart. I mentioned before that the cardiovascular disease can be triggered a higher risk if you have HPV. In this case, this protects the heart. And also because it has a powerful amount of antioxidants and alleviating inflammatory response, it reduces the factor levels of all the things that you're going through or challenges if you've been diagnosed with HPV. Another thing as well as I want to mention to you is in conjunction with Ganoderma, that we know has great amount of polysaccharides and flavonoids for the body in the way of compounds. There's it can work by itself and just or synergistically with other types of mushrooms like lion's mane or cordyceps or on its own. And so these are the three things I want to mention to you. The the cordyceps is another one. So cordyceps is another superfood that actually helps with many conditions, including cancer, but also is known to help with the gut. It helps with the immune system. And of course, it has a great amount of polysaccharides as well. And so these actually will help your body in a more wellness state. So I mentioned about the oxidative stress. We normally have normal cells. And then when we have free radicals attacking the cells, that's where the cells become oxidative. So you actually move to an oxidative stress. So if your body is experiencing these symptoms, it may not be able to tell unless you've been diagnosed or you've been tested. So it protects against oxidative stress, both the Ganoderma and the cordyceps. And of course, it protects the heart and many other things. But if we look at something that's helping in a natural way, this is something I would say for you to take a look at. The antioxidants and the anti-inflammatory properties and many of the things that we've known through the research we found. Not only that is that it supports not only, for example, those things, but also helps with many other things like your appetite, libido, longevity, memory, sleep. But there's so many other factors to add to that. There are other recordings I've done with different types of conditions that it's been known to help with. The lion's mane I want to point out is one of like my new favorite. It's something I started consuming about almost 2.5 years ago through one of the products that I'm consuming. But it not only is it helping with your cognition, your brain fog, mental energy, but also it has been proven to possess anti-cancer properties, antimicrobial, antioxidant properties, and also reducing oxidative stress. So it not only does all of that, but it does plus, plus, plus. So it exhibits these anti-cancer properties, but also it helps with many other things, not just what I'm sharing with you today. So the reason I'm sharing all of this with you is just, of course, the wellness journey that we're on with you is that we were introduced to this amazing platform that it covers not only health and wellness in this aspect, but many other ecosystem as well. And we want to be able to share with you the brand with a purpose. So we are a brand with a purpose. We help people create better lives, richer lives, to live a more healthier and richful, impactful life. And through discovering this wellness for this brand, we have seen the changes in our life and we'll be able to share with you. So according to the Health Canada, we have the backing through Health Canada that states that it supports the immune system, can help to fight infection and diseases. This is what we have. But not only that, as I mentioned to you, there's over 3,000 case studies through PubMed, which is not part of our brand, but this is from a separate third-party resource that we use and have credible backing in the way of research. So normally the actual reishi is very bitter to taste on its own, but we have the patent that infuses that into everyday consumable things like coffees, teas, hot cocos, even in the natural form in the way of capsules, because it actually grows into 3 different stages, comes in toothpaste form, and many other things as well. But for me, if you're like me, my palate, if it doesn't pass the taste, my palate, I will not consume it, at least for a long time. So for 14 years, I've been consuming this, and I've noticed many different changes, and people who we shared it with, they've given us feedback on what their experience is. But the fact that you're able to consume and get your nutrients from a simple dose, a cup of coffee or tea or hot cocoa, and not get the negative effects of caffeine. So no jitters, no caffeine crash, no heart palpitations, no spiking of your blood pressure has been advised to us with people who have consumed it, and myself as well. I have a sensitivity to caffeine, but I'm getting my daily dose. And for those who are looking for something that they can supplement what they're doing in the way of their health or dietary plan, could be a great fit for you. If you're not into hot beverages, it actually comes in tea form. And actually, you can drink the coffee cold too once you've actually created that, because they taste the same. But the nutraceuticals are really good because that's a therapeutic dose of what you need for your body. So the one small choice that we made has a lasting impact. And so this is what we want to be able to share with people like yourself and those that we are meeting for the first time or we have met and become friends, is to practice wellness through mindfulness, being positive about your wellness, and being optimistic and proactive. And so these are the 3, as I mentioned to you, that works synergistically together or by themselves. And just to know where the source of our reishi comes from, there's 2 types of certified organic on the different platforms of this mushroom. One that's grown normally in a way of, organically as Mother Nature intended to be in ground cultivation, and also artificial, which they're in plastic bags, tubes, and both are considered certified organic because they're free from pesticides, herbicides, all of that. But you don't get the full nutrients because one is grown the right way, in the way of natural ground cultivation, versus those where, as you can see the difference in color, you will not get the full nutrients your body need because of the absorption rate of what is going into your body. So we have in a way of 3 types of or stages of the actual mushroom. When you practice, holistic wellness in a sense of consuming things that would help your body without the negative side effects of medication. I'm not saying not to, I'm just saying that's an alternative or complementing with what you're doing. The Ganoderma lucidum grows in 3 stages. So basically the roots, which is the roots of the Ganoderma is called mycelium. Then the fruiting body, as you see to your left, is called the Ganoderma, which is in most of the products that I showed before. And then the spores. The spores is the most impactful because it's 17 times more potent than the others. But these are the seeds that actually grow into the air, back onto the plum logs to regenerate. Whereas those that grow in plastic bags from other companies, other brands, cannot produce spores. So if you have a sick plant, it will not be able to reproduce. So in this case, it's able to reproduce because of how we grow it naturally and organically. So if you're looking at unlocking your full potential for your health, consider things like the Ganoderma at whatever stage you want, the roots, the body, or the spores, or the seeds, to be able to support your immune system and to be able to get additional nutrients you need. If you're going through sorry, I thought I had. If you're going to, just want to be able to consume something, the coffees are there, the teas are there. I love this one. This actually has all three versus just like, for example, the black coffee that has just the reishi, but you're able to consume any of them and be able to experience a different change. Now, just to let you know, and I'm not sure if it's still open, we do have a limited time offer where you can get free shipping on orders over 50. That means basically 2 or 3 boxes of a product, depending on what you're consuming. Two also boxes of an item, or simply the capsules, and to try it at least for 30 days, 60 days, religiously. Give up a brand that you're consuming and have this exclusively pay attention to your body. And of course, we want to be able to welcome you to our wellness platform. So as I actually wrap up here, I'd like to ask if you have any questions. And once I do,
Yeah.
I'm going to, sorry, go ahead.
Kerry-Ann, this is your hubby.
Oh, hi.
I just wanted to point out that as you aware, that I frequently, when my body's worn down and I get cold sores. So what happened on Sunday, as I told you, I started feeling a tingling on my lips in the upper left corner, and usually, due to stress or factors that I go through day to day, I noticed that it was coming up. And as you always tell me, take the spores. So every time I feel that for the last, 10 years now, every time that I have tingling, I usually go to drinking more of the coffee. I cut down on any sweets. But on Sunday, the tingling started, and I took 3 spores early in the morning. I actually washed the area of my lip, and I actually took some of the spores, opened the capsule, and I put some on the actual infected area.
Oh,
Right? I actually burst the pustules that was forming, and I put the spores directly on the infected area. And as of today, it's actually dried up. It's scabbed over a little, but it didn't spread.
so in two
So
days. 2 days?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So from Sunday morning to today, and it's already scabbed over. Usually, as you're aware, it usually lasts a week, and it usually gets puffy and spread a little bit more and get a little pustules on it. But for some, divine reason, I did something different today, or yes, on Sunday, and it actually healed it a lot faster.
Mhm.
So anyone that gets cold sore, usually that duration is about 2 weeks, right? From the tingling to the swelling and the pustules beginning and forming scab and drying up. So, using, from my experience of prior to now being able to just open the capsule and put the spore directly on it, I found that even worked better.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I know that I said the sports, but I didn't know you was using it that way. I thought he was ingesting it. So it's actually the good
Well, both.
results.
I injected, I digested it,
Oh,
but when I opened up one, I just took a little bit off it and I put it directly on the sore with a little coconut oil.
oh, okay. Gotcha. Coconut oil is a great base as well, if you're adding for anything else. So thank you. Any
So I'm
other?
learning.
Yes, of course, we all learn together and grow together. Any other questions or feedback before we wrap up? Okay, that's fine. So I want to thank you for your time. There's actually a survey that will pop up as you end the Zoom. Feel free. I would love to get your feedback. If there's a particular topic you'd like to have me speak on in the future, please you can put it in the survey. It takes about a minute and a half, 1 minute and a half to 2 minutes to complete. And your input and feedback would be appreciated. So join us again next Tuesday as we do a health talk. Feel free to invite with others, and yeah, we go from there. All right, so have a great day, guys. A great evening, I should say. All right, thanks again. Stay blessed. Bye-bye. Oh, sorry, before you go, I forgot. I apologize. There's two announcements I had to make. I'm actually gonna let me just end this right now. I was gonna end the recording. Just have to make a quick announcement.